This call is now being recorded.
How are you doing?
Good, yourself?
I'm doing all right.
Just spent all day walking in the woods. Couldn't handle the
Awesome.
UFO topic today.
It's understandable. You can feel that some days.
I am smoked. Just did I don't know how many miles, but it was quite some time.
Where'd you go?
Right here in the state parks, right here in the Bridgewater Triangle. Yeah, from here I try to explore the places that I haven't been in years since I was a kid. So did most of it around a river and a lake off in the Freetown, Lakeville area. It's pretty good walk. Lots of big hills.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you live in a boat? Is that something that I just imagined?
I lived on a boat for years and years of my life, but I haven't recently because I put the boat on land on the hard for the winter, and the marina didn't take very good care of it. And like a storm broke through the winter wrapping and somehow damaged the side of the boat and destroyed the inside. So I've been trying to figure out what to do. So insurance isn't covering it, so I'm just trying to get together. I'm just renting an apartment for now. It's not very small, very old place, but it's not ideal at all. I'm kind of anyways.
So
how's your day going?
It's going all right. It's been kind of a slow day. I've been waking up in the morning feeling like really exhausted, and I'm not really sure why. But
you've been fighting the man what is his name? The man in the hat in your dreams while you're sleeping.
Yeah, I woke up this morning. I was having kind of a weird dream. I was in like some sort of, I don't know, like some sort of dystopian like theme park or something. I don't know what it was, but we were on this like little subway train like inside of this place, like inside of a building, and something was happening, and so everyone was freaking out and getting out of the train, and I escaped the train, and I was with Jeff Knox, and we were escaping, and then but he got away down this little like vent shaft, and I didn't quite make it there. So and this like car pulled up, it was it was indoors, and it was like carpeted, and this like some sort of electric vehicle that you would see inside of a building pulled up in front of me, and that's when I woke up. It's pretty much.
So you were at a resort or a casino, a large place with a carpeted floor with electric vehicles. No, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds kind of like a casino, but I don't know. It was more like something something out of a Michael Crichton movie or something. I don't know.
When you said dystopian, I can think of a few times I've had a few too many drinks, I used to play poker quite a bit because I was kind of good for a while. And then I would stumble through a very large casino, basically intoxicated, and sometimes maybe on some other stuff. And I literally would be looking around at the faces of people that are playing games where you can't possibly profit. It's not just statistically impossible. It's impossible to profit from these games, but just by the sheer number of the tables. And I'm playing poker, and I just see these faces. I'm like, oh my Lord, it is this kind of mad world of just smoking and just any day now I'm gonna win that cruise. Anyways.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Bridgewater Triangle. Because I'm just kind of curious. Did you grow up in the Bridgewater Triangle?
Every day of my youth, I spent right here, and I lived on the swamp for the majority of that. But for the first part of it, I was deeper in it. I grew up my entire life here. I left at 18 and came back a couple times, but I'm back now full time living here again.
Okay. So you grew up around a lot of, did you hear a lot of stories growing up?
Yeah, but nothing was the Bridgewater Triangle. That was that came later in my life. Even though that was already established as a thing, I had heard plenty of weird stories from people, especially from this area. It's people are like super Catholic, but yet also like, well, not so much Catholic anymore, but anyways, they were just like into the paranormal. I don't know why, but they would just say things like it was normal to them, like if everyone just believed them. Saw a ghost on my way to work today. That type of thing. And so I was like, okay.
Weird. So in the swamp, have you ever seen any? Well, I was watching your video from like 9 months ago where you did a walkthrough of the Hockomock Swamp with your friend, and you saw something in that video, but it doesn't really show up, and it's really brief. Or it was like before you turned the camera on or something.
Yeah, that was a special moment.
Yeah. So, have you seen other lights in the swamp?
I have never seen a light. I mean, I've seen in the Bridgewater Triangle, I've seen strange lights in the sky way up, but I've never seen anything like what I saw then. And so many people have claimed to see lights right in that area, and I have never seen anything like that before. Even as, at all the weird stuff I've reported and trying to investigate myself, I've never seen anything quite like that.
Like what you saw in
right before we get to that day, yeah, on that video. It was
what did it look like? Or what did it?
It was a red. It was like a red orange kind of like pulsating, not pulsating. I don't know how to. It was a red orange light that showed up, like a circular light. And then as we're pulling in, so like he was slowing down, and I was saying, look at this, and I was thinking it's an airplane. I then noticed it was behind the tree, because in front of the trees, it like moved from left to right, in my vision, but it did so by it was like a line. Instead of going from like a dot and then disappearing or just flying over to the other the place it landed, it became like a line, and then its tail caught up to like instantly, like a snap, like. I don't know how to explain it other than that. It was a dot or a globular thing floating there, and then it became a stretched out line, and then it was a dot where to the right. I don't know. There's another way I can explain it. That's a terrible one.
How long did it last? Just a few seconds?
Yeah, it was not very long, but it was long enough to it was long enough to notice it wasn't an airplane, because we were pulling in and you could see it for like probably, I don't know, a couple hundred feet. We were going like 20 miles an hour, I don't know. Yeah, it was definitely interesting. It was bright enough that it looked like a light on an airplane or the light of someone like backing up a vehicle, but you could see the cars on the highway right there behind it, and you could see the sky behind it and the trees behind it, and it was just like, what the hell is that floating above? It was like above the water or above the swamp there. And, it was just radical.
Did your friend see it too?
He claims to have seen it, although I don't know. I really don't know. He claims to have seen it, and he describes it like what I saw, but he said he after like kind of a tough interrogation from me, being like, "Are you fucking sure you saw it?" Excuse my language, darn it. Are you sure you saw it? He'll say, "I did see it, but I just saw it so quickly that I didn't know what it was. I just it was just a red light sitting there." And because he had seen it, I guess, probably after it had moved to that second position. And but I remember saying I saw a light there to some woman that tries to catalog as many events as possible and kind of like meet the people in the area. And she said she was pretty surprised that we had seen it during the daytime. And it was very early in the morning, but still, it was cool. I admit it was really cool for a sighting of something in the daytime, where you can like easily gauge the stuff around it, to see like the distance or how far, how near, how big it was, or how much it moved. And you can't do that at night almost ever. It's next to impossible. and it was cool. And whatever.
How big was it in your field of vision?
I mean, it looked like it honestly looked like it would be probably a beach ball or basketball size object, based on like where at the tree, like the best I could gauge, it seemed like that size because the set of trees that were directly behind it that I could see next to the highway. When you're next to those trees, they're really not that big. So I'm like, well, if this thing was at the edge of these trees or even near it, it would have to be at least a basketball, probably bigger, but I would say at a minimum a basketball, because it seemed like it looked like a basketball sitting on the end of a branch, balancing almost. Like that's at first glance, that's what I saw. You know, like that's what kind of my mind went to. And then instantly as it, kind of made that blinking motion or whatever it did, and then went to the right, I was just like, holy shit. It was cool. And it was, also, it being in a place that I had been heard stories about multiple times in my life, but I've never seen anything there ever. And it being, almost like 25 minutes after I was just at another location, and I flat out said, and this has nothing to do with it. This isn't scientific, and this is just basically me saying something. It's an anecdote at best, but I was looking at a light in someone's front yard that had like some sort of like old school lantern set up in their front yard, and the lantern had like old brown looking glass in it, kind of, and the white light behind it was just a regular LED bulb, outdoor bulb, and it made the light look orange, like an orange light. And I'm standing on this thing everyone calls the Preacher's Rock or Suicide Rock and like that. It's like this place, they found a body there years ago. There's a poem etched on it. I say, I want to see something that looks like that. Because we turned around and looked across the street and saw like this guy had this huge glass thing in his front yard. And it was like, it was a big glass, like orb essentially. And he was like, me and my father saw something like that one time. People here will instantly fly off and tell you a story. I'm no different, because allegedly it happened so much to certain individuals out here. These ambiguous flashes of light, but I'm not sure it's they're accurate. They're trying to prove themselves wrong, which I think is a foreign feature of it. Anyways, go ahead.
So a while back, excuse me, I mentioned the Heston lights and the Yakima lights in the chat on your show. Do you remember this?
I'm not sure exactly, but yeah, I'm familiar with them.
So what do you think about the Yakima lights?
Well, I'll tell you, I spent a ton of time in Yakima, like a lot of time in Yakima. An uncountable number of hours, to be fair, honestly. And then I was a firefighter in Yakima for like a 3-month detail, or about 2-month detail. And so when you're out there, you're out there. You can be between two valleys, and you're just far away. There's a highway that cuts through certain training ranges, but it's huge. The town is getting bigger, and of course the Army's YTC training center is right there. It's huge. I think that the things that they saw were probably mostly military aircraft in operation or dropping flares. But I 100% believe that people have seen interesting gas, whatever, light, whatever they are, whatever this thing is we're talking about, like Heston or like the Hockomock Swamp or something, or the Smoky Mountain, Brown Mountain lights or something. I believe it to be happening there as well. It's just in smaller occasions, I guess. But it's the whole place is just rock under rock and grassy hills everywhere, and like there's just endless stone. And it looks like almost like it was a river. I don't know. It's just crazy looking. And to me, it just looks like there's probably a lot going on there, geologically speaking, that we don't know about. There's also an NSA headquarters there, hidden away in the hills. It's huge, and so a lot of other stuff that we have no idea about, And
like inside of the reservation, or
inside Yakima Training Center, it's a now retired place that it was full of those giant mobile satellite dishes and big, those big, huge soccer ball looking. They're like larger than the Doppler systems, but much bigger. And you can Google it. You can just type in like Yakima NSA place or former retired NSA place, and you can see pictures of it. But I used to drive by it all the time for work. I would drive by it. Yeah. It was huge.
And the training center is in Yakima, the city of Yakima.
Well, I don't know if it's in the proper city, but it's right there. It's in the area. Like the people that have some of the big stories from Yakima have happened from like locals, like natives that lived on the res. That was just like, or that I don't know if it's actually an official reservation right there, but it's right outside of the training center and right west of the town. So it's like in between. There's like one or two places to get there. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the area. I know your area code's that way, isn't it?
Yeah, I live a few hundred miles away, but I've never actually been spent time out there. I've always wanted to.
If you go, you must go to Ellensburg and go like, I don't know if you're into this, but you can go just sit on a raft and go down this beautiful glacier river, and it's just like you take in the canyons. It's peaceful. There's a couple rocky parts, but other than that, you bring like food and put it in a cooler with you or backpack, and it can be literally the greatest time on earth.
Yeah.
Right there outside of Yakima, right in there. But yeah, the training center is part of the hills on the east side of the highway, and you got to kind of get deep in there. You'll go past the town exits where like that Walmart is and stuff, and then there's the Oasis Bar and Grill, which is the beginning of the YTC Training Center, and it's big and open and nowhere. I remember one time. I put night vision on and looked directly up and laid on the top of a Humvee, and the earth just goes the earth just goes crashing through so much stuff. It's crazy. Like you're just looking up, and over the course of maybe 30 minutes, it's just endless activity flying overhead all time. Like it's so chaotic looking, not just from our own stuff, but just the stuff that's flying into the we're flying into. It's incredible looking, and I would not be surprised if we have plenty to learn out there, and then people have witnessed things that happen in areas like that because of that. I don't know, but it's super mysterious, desolate as hell, and people have been reporting weird stuff there for years.
Are you familiar with East City Ranch?
I know the story. I mean, I've heard stories from it.
Oh, okay.
I'm never interviewed anyone from there really, other than a few people, but that were involved slightly. But
okay. What do you think is going on in the Bridgewater Triangle or in that region?
I think that we have a Native American curse, and we need a young priest and an old priest to get rid of it. And there's little tiny puckwudgie stealing people, and people, no. But that's what they'll have you. Every show is just a repeat of people's folklore to get people into the woods, and they get there and like, oh, it's woods, and I'm covered in ticks, and it's just it's just I don't pay really any attention, and I know a lot of people think this is a fault of mine, and I think maybe it is, but I just try to stay away from it because there's so much of it. But like, I don't pay attention to anything that's involved with people telling ghost stories in the Bridgewater Triangle, or anything but cryptids, or why are these two trees laying on top of each other. I don't take any of that stuff seriously, and not because I don't believe them necessarily entirely, that they don't have evidence, and I could have missed it because I am ignoring it. I admit that, but it's just like they're pulling stories out of the worst parts of this area that the people that came up with those stories are have been taken advantage of, and then themselves are taking advantage of people, and that's as far as they'll go. But they're also like disabled as well, which is really uncool to see. It's really not cool to see these people in documentaries, and then having their accounts taken as being just the whole truth. Not that they can't be giving the truth, but it's like it's just so obviously not. It's not the truth, and I learned over the years that it wasn't just my own eyes that I shouldn't be trusting, but it was a lot of these stories. So now I just focus mainly on there's something happening here in my mind that has more to do with a light phenomena for whatever reason, could be whatever's causing the light. I don't want to put a name on it. I always say plasma, but I just like the term buoyant plasma, even though it has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. But I just like that term. And I don't think it's fair that it should be reserved for something that no one really cares about in the first place. No offense to ball lightning or anything like that, or anything done in the lab or whatever else. But anyways, buoyant plasmoids. No, there just seems to be a lot of light phenomena happening here, where the people that don't seem to have an agenda seem to have the same stories, not the same stories at all, but stories that feature one common thing, and that is a sudden appearance of lights being in a place that it's hard to explain at a time where makes it even harder to explain why the lights are there. They seem to be doing things that almost give people the authority to say, hey, that's alive, even though a lot of people that maybe might work in that field might recognize that it's something else, like maybe it's actually burning up the gas that's there, or maybe it's changing color because of what it's burning at the time or something, if that's what's happening at all. But regardless, it's happening. It's happening to the point where a lot of people that have nothing to do with this topic, they want nothing to do with it. They understand, that discernment and having some skepticism is probably the best. But they reported nonetheless, and it's seemingly a light phenomena that manages to dance around the trees and can sometimes zip over hills in front of people. And then, or it be in multiple lights flying in it would appear to be maybe 3 light lanterns floating through the sky or something, at first glance. And then you see that they're much closer together and flashing different colors and then zipping away and coming together, or zipping away and disappearing seemingly, and then will pop up, maybe a mile in the sky or so, or whatever, on the horizon in the other direction, and causing a big scene and flashes of light. And, these reports no longer are listened to or reported by the news, but they happen so often with, just people that go around hunting those types of stories, and not in the sense that they're, inspiring people to tell them, but, passively taking them in I don't know how to describe it, but either way, it seems to be happening quite a bit. And I believe that is it. There's nothing else to it. I believe the natives experienced it. I believe, they probably developed crazy stories just like us. I do think that also was trouble, because a simple light phenomena that we can recognize, that we can't explain, could also look just like something else. That is the story of life in general. These two things are called the same for decades and decades, until someone makes a tool that looks at this thing close enough and says, hey, this is A and this is B. They're not even close to the same. At first glance they look like, they do the same thing, and that's why I fear my pseudo maturity of it's just a natural phenomena. I don't want to necessarily put all my eggs in that basket, because I'm a former soldier who, dresses up like a tree and can get within a couple feet of people without them even knowing.
Do you think any of these lights could be birds, birds with white plumage that are reflecting ground light?
Big time. I've seen it multiple times where people misidentify. A thing I've noticed is that some of these folks that misidentify some of these birds with a very bright belly or under their wings, and or the whatever whatever the species is. I'm not super familiar with a lot of species around here, or birds at all. I should get into it more, but I'll notice that the people are looking in a place that it's already hard to identify anything. A large dragonfly or a hummingbird is pretty much impossible to see at that point. It's no different than a bumblebee or a large, bee, but specifically in this area, I've watched it in areas where the lights have been seen. People will go there and hope to see them and see birds flying and taking like a hard left-hand turn and showing their belly, and it bounces against the sun and under the wings, and it's very, beautiful and reflective, and oftentimes, well, I don't know if reflective is the right word. I'm an idiot, but it's.
I think that's the right word.
It's it's clear they're seeing it, and I've watched them. I say, I just saw it, and other people will agree, and I'm like, guys, well, okay, I'm more interested in something that it illuminates itself beyond a shadow of a doubt that there's something there causing a light, and it's I'm so above jumping to conclusions. Especially in this area, no one wants to go walk into the woods with me anymore. There's only a couple people that are interested, because I just had a problem with this the other day. I was talking to a person about it, and they were trying to explain to me what just happened to them, and a rock sitting with 90% of its mass under the surface of the ground is going to be freezing cold, even if you're sweating your buns off in the woods. And someone walks up and just explains the universe, and they're like, it's cold because energy from something was just passing by here, and this is why I know we're on the right trail. And I'm like, all right, and it's just we get a lot of that around these parts, and I don't think that Beyond Skinwalker Ranch, that was just on television, did it different. They found someone that was all into it just like that, and they went with it.
Yeah, I don't watch stuff like that if I can avoid it.
It's tough,
What did they talk about in that episode specifically that you had the most difficulty with?
Puckwudgies.
Mm-hmm.
Puckwudgies. A very broad, it's basically a non-native thing anymore, because it's the only people that are talking about puckwudgies today are, shows like that. And I don't want to sound like a jerk here, because I do like some of the people that have wrote about them, but they admit that this is folklore, based off what some people have claimed in the area, and what maybe matches it from people that were here, like the Algonquin and the Wampanoag and then all the other larger kingdoms that were around here, and so I just I see them focus on it. They literally point the camera at where a hole, where a beaver lives next to the swamp, and they're like, it's warm under there. That must be where Puckwudgie lives, and it's just ridiculous. A guy named Bill Russo is a short story writer, and he wrote a story that he wrote a bunch of really kind of fun little short stories, but none of them were a hit, and none of them were a huge hit. We've heard this before in ufology, right? Where someone's a writer and they write a bunch of kind of pretty well-known stories. They even have fans in this topic that one day they write about, and they suddenly crush it, and suddenly people are taking they go from a sci-fi or a fantasy writer to a person who's just telling their first-hand witness encounter. And I'm like, isn't that a little strange that the exact thing that they've ever. All right, anyways, but this guy Bill Russo writes this book, and he writes the story about this encounter with this little critter, and suddenly all these people that have been writing about Native American lore and how it's or legends and stuff and myth and creation stories, and how it could be exactly what's going on in whatever, pick your area, Utah, the Cherokees down in the Brown Mountains, the Wampanoag here in the area, the Algonquin up north in Katahdin, and it's like I don't, you can pick your poison. It's anywhere they'll do that to it, and I'm just not into it. And I feel like it's a huge pain in the ass, but these things, maybe I'm just not lucky enough to never have seen them, but I spent so much of my time out here that I think it's just another, it's one of those things, right? Someone says a gray alien, and someone just says, well, one time in 1653, this guy wrote a book called the Seed Heads, and he writes a book about the sunflower seeds that come alive, and look how he describes them. It's obviously the same thing. He was telling us the truth. And I just, it drives me crazy. And they focused heavily on the fantasy side of it, and it really doesn't affect me the way that I guess I portray them mostly because I'm emotionally immature idiot, and I just feel like I probably shouldn't care as much, but it just drives me nuts that we can't just focus on what is clearly really happening, and a lot of the people know it's happening. They just choose to be like, well, people don't care about lights in the sky or lights flying through the trees. People care more about like strange Harry Potter like stuff, like literally people in this area that are into the Pukwudgie stuff plant strawberry trees in their strawberry bushes in their backyard in order to ward them away and stuff, or call them depending on whatever your belief is, And so I mean, they actually do that around here, and they don't even know what they're talking about. They're like just, and I almost I don't want to say this too loud because I have neighbors, and one of them actually was super into it, and she's came to me one time about it, and I was like, well, what this was really from, and then she told me she was a native, and I shouldn't be telling her, but I was like, but then I found out it wasn't exactly true, but the fact of the matter was that it was I found out that she was quoting the Bill Russo story. And so like even sometimes people who think that they're telling like the story of their own people possibly are now telling the Bill Russo story, which is by a short story writer who wrote fictions and then suddenly writes one from his own neighborhood that features it features a subject. It's like part of the equation as a person that can kind of dip in and dip out. You write a book about a subject where people are already kind of well informed on it, but you write it from the point of a position of like, this just happened to me. Mm-hmm. And then when they get a hold of it, they try to help you through it, even though it's a fantasy. And they're like, and people show up and they're like, oh yes, let me tell you, these things are around here. Other people have these stories too, and maybe they do, maybe they're real, but his story was ridiculous, and everyone knows it to be a fiction, and but he claims it to be real, and because he won't say it's a fiction, everyone's forever thinking that the Wookiees of Star Wars are real, and they live in the woods of Massachusetts.
So, do you have Native American heritage?
According to the very terrible, very early DNA testing that I did, which was before I got into conspiracies. Now I'm screwed. There's another Jeff out there. No, but there's my father always told me that I did, and then I found out that it was he said that I was a higher percentage, but I feel weird even saying percentage of that. But
right,
it was like
right.
it was plotted, like on the map, and where it was all over eastern Rhode Island. And so I was like, well, then there must be some in my heritage from some tribe there, and I don't really know what one. I'm guessing like Patuxent or something. I don't know. But he explained to me how my grandfather was like native. I never saw a picture of him until I was an adult, and how he would basically only sleep with white women, and to get him back, that type of joke he would say. And because I used to ask my mother as a child, why does my dad have like olive skin? He has like an English last name, but he has like dark olive skin, and I'm like white. And she was like, your dad just always has a tan. That's what she would say. And I was like, and I never got that. And now that he's old, he actually does kind of look pale now, because I never was close with him, but I just asked him recently, and he would just constantly say I think he's Algonquin, because we come from New Hampshire. His people come from New Hampshire. You think that's all he used to say? And I was like, I don't know. All right, but. It also says I'm African, so I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say.
So, the reason I asked is because your middle name is White Bear. What is the significance of that name?
I used to have a giant white dog, and a Great Pyrenees Mountain Dog. And I lived in Washington for years and years and years and years. And I don't know if you know the Nisquallies. Nisqually people, and I used to kayak down that river like I can't even tell you. I went down the Nisqually River more times than I can count, and I used to have that dog with me all the time, and I just became like the guy. That was my name, and everywhere I ever went, everyone, not just the Nisquallies, were calling me that, but like it just became like my name that I had for years. It wasn't that name. I've changed it for something else, but it's very close to White Bear, let's just say. But it's very close. Like a good friend of mine in the Army, because I don't know if you're from the area, but like Fort Lewis, when I was in the Army, had tons of natives in it, because they would all request to be nearest or the West Coast. And the Army doesn't have a ton of bases up the West Coast, so they would or for like an infantryman, and so my best friend in the Army for a while, there was like his last name was, his name was His Bad Horse. That was his whole name, and so other people that were involved with his people were getting funny names like that, and it would be like some crazy Pacific Northwestern native, like I don't know, like Takutskit or something, some name like that, and then it would be like Takutskit. like literally whatever the person did to piss one of these guys off or to befriend them would become like their name, and I luckily they kind of I've hiked with them a lot and stuff, and I had a good time out in the Pacific Northwest. I lived out there for a long time, and
cool.
Yeah, I loved it.
So so it was a nickname and then you changed it legally?
No, it's not a legal name. It was my
it's just a nickname.
It was my nickname for a while. It was something else close to that, and then I allegedly I grew up into White Bear.
I see. Okay.
I met these people when I was 18.
Mm-hmm. So you were just out of basic.
I was just out of basic. When I went Pacific Northwest?
Yeah. Yeah,
I was up there, and I was after basic. Well, no, not just after basic. I was at Fort Benning for a while. Not a ton of time, but I was there for a while. I went to 115 3rd ID before I went to Fort Lewis.
Mm-hmm. I see. How long did you serve?
My DD-214 says 5 years. My actual time was about almost 8, but about 7.5. And I spent the last 2.5 years, 1 year in Madigan Army Hospital, and the last year and a half after that in on what's called temporary retirement in the Wounded Warrior Brigade. And so I was out. I spent like I literally almost spent the same time in like a temporary retirement phase as I did in the Army. So and they don't even count my last like 3 years in because I was in the hospital, which is insane considering.
Yeah.
I had to go to formation still. I had to call in on the phone. I don't know why I'm saying this. I don't know why I'm saying this a lot, but it was just really the Army had no idea what to do with the thousands of soldiers getting out after the war. And a lot of them were completely jacked up. And there was this place called the Wounded Warrior Brigade that I went to. I didn't even know it existed. But when I got medevaced out of Iraq, I was in Germany for like 2 days, and then they sent me straight to Madigan, where I was there for a little while, and they sent me to this thing called the Wounded Warrior Brigade, where they would bus me back and forth to the hospital every day, and they literally just like had thousands of soldiers walking around like jacked up. Like I had buddies from my unit were there with me. Like one guy was like shot through the mouth, and he's like was still healing, but he had like so they just let us train soldiers. That was our job for like the last like 2 years in the Army. That's all I did. And so I was like in the hospital, and I would go train soldiers during the day, and they don't count that as service time. It's insane. And because it was quote unquote temporary retirement. It was like, well, we gave you you pretty much didn't have to do real service. You could pick and choose what you wanted to do. Well, what the? I still was on post. I was in uniform. I weighed 155 pounds, and I was like barely clinging on to life. And I still worked, and yet they did. I got my DD-214, and it was like short, like 3 years, and I'm like, are you kidding me? And it's been a never-ending pursuit and struggle ever since. Sorry I said all this, but I can't understand. The VA and the Army are towards the end of a career should be this unified thing that works smoothly, but I didn't even get care after the Army. I went 10 years without any disability because they didn't recognize the disease that put me in the hospital as being it was so rare it wasn't in their codex book in order to pick a code. Ooh, this is a 65% rating disability. You have whatever, you lost your toe. I don't know, whatever, so if they didn't have my disease in there that I got, which they still didn't even know at the time what it was. It was something that was causing seizures and like these weird spasms in my nervous system or rather just like the turning on and activating without no real reason why. And so I spent all this time literally going through all this horrible testing in a hospital at Madigan or this other place that like they drove me up to near Seattle once in a while, and for like 2.5 years it was nuts, and it just sucked. And to have that not even counted, I'm completely disappointed with the damn Army.
Wow. What is the name of this disease?
Well, it's I'd rather not share too much, but it's
okay, that's fine. Yeah.
No, but it just consider it a completely conscious, like body only epilepsy. I don't know how the best to explain how it works for people, but or how it works for other people. But they literally wrote down on the paperwork Fugax for the first like two years of me going through testing because they had no idea like what was going on. They would just watch these crazy spasms and not know what to do. And what does Fugax stand for? Sorry. It's like they just told me it was a medical term. They meant like unknown malfunction. Like
okay.
It was something that was like they couldn't figure what happened. There's a long story to this, but like when I was the last week I was in Iraq, I was in the aid station having these weird it was crazy, this like being awake and having these like crazy spasms that end up being essentially just a malfunctioning nervous system. That's what it ended up being. And the guy that one of my medics, literally was the day I was there, the same sick as me, and died within like a couple hours of being there. And so they thought that it was like, holy shit, he's got the same thing, whatever this is crazy. And it was like, and it ended up being completely different. And so I spent like the first like little while them thinking like I was going to start going through what this guy went through. And he went through something else. He got like cholera, some crazy variant or some crazy, I don't even know what he got. It was nuts. But for me, it was a good 3 years of torture of trying to figure out what it was. And still to this day, it's completely open, and they have it on there as just malfunction.
Huh. Wow. Okay. And so this started during while you were overseas.
It started during a time where we had to cross water all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like it started. It was rough. Let's just say that there was times where after crossing water, like everyone would be violently ill.
You mean crossing water on foot, right?
Oh yeah. You got to get to the objective.
Waist deep, or
oh yeah, depends. Like whatever it is, depends.
It could be deeper than 6 feet or whatever.
Oh yeah, no, like we're talking about, think of I don't know what you're familiar with the military or whatever, just the infantrymen in the fucking jungle of Iraq, in the palm grove, and you just gotta. Sometimes you gotta strip down your kit, and you're just sitting there in your pants and your boots, and you got a rope strapped around you, and you swim across a river to go secure that rope to something on the other side, so then the whole platoon can come across. You know what I mean? And and that shit happens, like, and you're just sick for days on end after getting out of that water. That's not normal. And so like that started happening to me after the first one, like pretty significantly. I'd be like, it was just rough. Anyway, yeah, it was a fucking terrible time in my life, and I spent like so long in a hospital, people being like, I'm gonna be the one to fix this, so I'm gonna try something radical. Let's shove nitroglycerin up there.
Yeah, but I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it's hilarious, but it's awful. It was fucking awful. And I can look back and laugh now because I'm like nuts, but at the time, I remember like my friends saw me, the guys from the platoon, my buddy Juan, for the first time in like a year and a half, because I was on the same post as this guy, and I had never seen half the platoon from coming back. He saw me, and he like hugged me, and like we were never that close. We were never like friends. We never got a hug, and and we were like friends. Like he was a fellow team leader. You know what I mean? He wasn't anyways, but he looked at me and he was like, holy shit, Kingsbury, you all right? Like my face was, I remember like thinking like oh my God, the last time he saw me, I probably weighed like 180, 200 pounds, and I was a walking like skeleton, and people just like looking at me like I was a dead man. And I was like, I'm actually not dying. This has just been what it's like trying to find something to stop me from having weird ass like epileptic seizures or whatever the hell was going on. It's like, and so it was just nuts. I lived that was my time leaving the army. It sucked because it was all in medical care. And
that's pretty intense. Yeah, I think after the interview, what I'll do at some point is I'll send both of the recordings to you, and then if you want to, you can you can just be like, I want you to leave this part out or whatever, and that's totally fine.
I've openly said that like 1,000 times. I don't know. I don't really care if anyone hears that, because it's like, it's just, I don't care about highlighting my own medical problems with them. I don't really say what what they end up putting on paperwork to get me a disability rating, because they never will acknowledge the things that they say I have, because it's just not enough people have them. So literally, like I had, they had to like get like the next best thing. And I can't openly acknowledge that, because I literally can't pretend or say it like it's legitimate, because it's like, it's unbelievable that they can't fix the system. So I've been saying that for years and years and years, and I don't really care if anyone hears it. Don't worry about it. I'm fine.
Okay. Did you ever see anything while you were in active duty? Anything unexplained?
I think, I have a couple stories I've never actually shared at all, but they're not. Now, I don't even want to share them under the label of a paranormal story because of what I know now. You know what I mean? Because I was so ridiculously underinformed, and what I was declaring couldn't be possibly us. And since what I think was going on, or what I know was going on rather, and actually speaking of YTC, that's where it was. Speaking of Yakima, where I saw what was going on there, I would probably leave that out of the story. But I encountered things I absolutely thought were like so convincingly so that everyone in the platoon that I told about it was like, yeah, sure you did, and it was pretty cool. It was, visually speaking, it was pretty cool. But now that I know what everyone is working on, that's exactly what I saw, and I speak about it on the show all the time. About like what other nations are working on, what I was seeing way back then, and recognizing, it's probably what's going on. And but anyways, no, but there was too much of, unless I'm forgetting something, there was too much of the real thing. I try to stress that whenever I talk about paranormal stuff to people. I don't think people experience paranormal things when they're experiencing the real world. And it's I'm not saying I don't think there's any paranormal things happening. I just mean literally when shit's blowing up, or you're so hyper vigilant that you think you're gonna get shot or blown, whatever it is. I don't think there's, I didn't see anything weird or feel anything weird at all in all that time. I don't think I think maybe even afterwards, maybe that's why I experienced it less, because my mind is so different. That's
interesting. Okay. Did people ever talk about UFOs or the paranormal when you were in?
Yes. Hardcore. Yeah, I actually found a video recently of us talking about the paranormal from back in 2007. And I'm sitting in the back of a vehicle, and we're all taking a break, and I'm telling a story about going on, because I used to be a paranormal hunter. I used to really put on my gear and go out there and do my thing. And we definitely talk about it. I still know people today that are into it. They're mad. They don't even like talking to me about the topic, even though they know how much I know about it or how much I've worked in it or been involved in it, because I take away the fantasy for them about certain things, and they don't like that. And I don't mean to do that, but Skinwalker Ranch is not performing miracles or encountering miracles, and the people that they like to quote, here's the slam dunk moment. Get this. Someone back in 2002 said this, and I'm like, well, I'm friends with that guy. He's been on my show twice. Go look at it. He says it's not like that. And then it's over. They're like, I'm not. Oh, you know what? Shut up. Call me back when you want to talk about something else.
Sorry.
No, I know how I am.
No, you're cool. Yeah, so actually, could you tell me about this? Because I kind of do like to include, IFO type stuff and explain things that were at the time unexplained or that are, kind of paranormal adjacent. So when you were at YTC, what was it that you saw, and what did it turn out to be?
Well, let's just say I saw a phenomenal light show and things that from acres, from endless ranges away, not range. I mean, literally, in the distance, like a helicopter would fire weapons to practice shooting. That type of distance away, range. We're talking at least 2,000 or 3,000 meters away. Probably even more. I'm watching a light show, a phenomenal light show of things doing things, and I would just say that the answer ended up being as prosaic as something you might see, in the sky of any major city that is replacing fireworks. That's what I'll say.
Okay.
I just don't want to. I feel like out of all the things that I never really pushed in the public, or whatever, is that one. And I realize now probably why I kept that to my. It's because I don't want any business saying that, and I don't even know what I shouldn't be saying. Actually, I should probably get more and more familiar with knowing what I can and cannot talk about. I haven't seen like anything crazy. I was just an infantryman, like nothing like that. But I did get to see some pretty cool stuff because our my battalion and brigade was so heavily involved with like the private sector. Like there was just so many corporations in and out of of my battalion alone, just selling their wares.
So you're saying that you don't want to say because of like an NDA or something like that?
Well, I haven't signed an NDA. No, but it's also, I don't know why. All right, well, I don't really give a shit. I guess I'll just say. I'm almost positive. I'm just assuming that someone, I'm just assuming that I saw something to do with using a large amount of UAS at once. That's all I'll say. And we didn't really use a lot of UAS back then. So, a lot the Army did, but it wasn't, And so I don't, without getting anything specific about what I was looking at, about what I was seeing, I could definitely tell that it looked like it was a large amount of what now today I recognize to be as something very common. That would make sense that we were working on in private in a place where no one could see. Back then. So I don't know. I have no idea though. It just seemed that's what it seemed to me to be most likelihood. And I never really tell that story because specifically of what I saw going on in that same moment right there that I think is an important feature that I'd rather not share actually. But yeah, I do think it had to do with drones essentially. As you know, drones are not new. They're old as the hills and
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I'm lame. It wasn't anything cool. But
No, that's okay. I'm like curious now, but I just need to stop asking questions.
If you dig into military, the military aerospace promotional videos and their trade shows right now today, you can go and look anywhere today and find like an admiral or an officer from the PEO of any military branch that is like representing a product or as like a liaison to Lockheed or something, and they look like daddy warbucks. They drive a nice car, they have a nice wristwatch, and they have nice glasses on, and they're selling big weapons. And if you pay close enough attention today, you can see basically the optimized version or whatever the refined version of what I think a lot of people saw back then. After all, think of like the Nimitz incident. When I really think of all the stuff that I had in my hands, or we had in front of us, or I had to train to be used and I never had to use, or we trained to use it and we had to use it and then it never actually worked, or all this like stuff that I like see like back then and how big it was. Like the Land Warrior system I worked on alone for all that time was, the average kit was I think it was like 88 pounds or something like that, but for the bigger guys it was well over 100 pounds. And that turned into a cell phone, and it was already a cell phone while I was working on the system. But we just decided much later, well, that's variant 2. That's what the Army's going to get, the next 10 years, that type of thing. And I was just a young soldier. I didn't know any what was going on. I was just in the limited users test, and so I see that now today with a lot of these things. And if you look at what the promotional videos are out for Lockheed and their long range weapon systems and stuff, you see it's like, oh, the exact thing that was being claimed back then is being done today with a much smaller, faster, sleeker version that no one would ever compare and recognize to, like, say, a Tic Tac, or I would ever recognize as what I was seeing back then in those early trials or whatever they were trying was what I think was going on. Wouldn't look like what's happening today at all, but I don't feel comfortable I bringing up specific things that I was looking at because well, for one, I feel like I owe my allegiance and my in any good faith to one place and one place alone. That's the United States, that has given me or let me have such a life, even after my body being destroyed, for Christ's sake. But it doesn't change the fact that I also if that was ever to come up for some reason, would I have to stand for the truth or not? Of course I would. The hard right there rather than the easy wrong. I mean, I just simply am not interested in helping people lie about UFOs. That's why I have such a problem with disclosure. It doesn't really feel like it's about UFOs to me. It feels like it's about something very different, and that's why people are like, why would you say something like that against Lou Elizondo? He's another veteran like you. Don't you like veterans? And I'm like, first off, when all brothers, that's ridiculous. As soon as I hear a veteran who I'm not friends with already call me brother, I'm like, beep, 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 back up the truck. I'm like, I knew people that were sick. Like I wouldn't be friends with them for a second outside of the military, or even when I was in the military. Second we're done, last formation of the day, I'm getting the hell away from some of these folks because they're people that escaped life to the military. Why would you, that's not I don't want to sound heartless, but it's no one I want to be friends with.
Yeah.
I tag these moments where I'm like, I work for the country. Operation Reach No One, Strange Recon. Operation Turn the Masses, all 12 of them at a time. Someone said that to me once. They're like, dude, the way you talk, you act like a CIA guy or something who's here to like fill this place with misinformation. I'm like, please don't insult the CIA. I'm not trying to are you kidding me? Don't insult the CIA. Could you possibly be so unrealistic that they wouldn't just go buy an entire TV studio and fucking make some elite project? And it's like I wake up here every day with uncombed hair and I'm like, shut up, listen. Anyways.
How would you describe your politics? Is that an all right question?
I don't care.
Do you want to talk about politics? Okay. Well,
I hate it.
You hate it? On the political spectrum, what would you say? What would you call yourself?
Oh, I don't even try, and only because I'll always be using something that's probably archaic to some other group of people that are into politics, and I'll say a word, and I don't want to sound like left or right or anything like that broad either. I think decisions shouldn't be party involved whatsoever, even when sometimes the party is clearly in this case taking a good decision. I think obviously civil rights for all people and watching the evolution of that should never die. That flame should never go out. We're always going to have to learn to be better people to one another. That's never going to change. Do I have to then join a party to agree with because of that? I hope not, because the second you start to just take sides on things, I really do feel like you'll miss how easily you're confirming your own bias and you're just taking sides and concreting yourself and regurgitating, rearranging things. I try to stay completely out of politics, other than supporting people when I know they're being oppressed, or calling out how absurd it is and making fun of it on a daily basis. That's pretty much my true involvements with politics. I wouldn't even dare call myself something in 2023 before someone would be like, "How? What?"
Okay. I'm looking at this Loren Coleman book here. Can you talk about Loren Coleman a little bit?
Oh God, are you a Loren Coleman spy? Wait a second.
No. I want to hear what you have to say about Loren Coleman talking about the Bridgewater Triangle.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, that's, I don't have to, say my opinion whatsoever. I mean, I can provide 100% facts, simply providing his own article, from the 80s right here. I have it in front of me, and I'd like to pull it up here for a second here. I always keep it standby because I know people love to give credit to people, and I will say that yes, Loren Coleman was in fact the person who originated, who made the name kind of publicly official, kind of like if your neighborhood was called Oakland, and one day you opened a store called Oakland Variety Store, to some degree you would have made it official, or it's seen it. People see it every day, so it's realer. It's more real. It's more real than simply the nickname. And Loren Coleman released an article back in the day. There, I'm trying to pull it up here. Where the heck is it? And it's here. It is. I'm gonna bring all three of them up. Got all the originals here, photocopies from September 8th, 1978, where Loren Coleman refers to the Bridgewater Triangle as an area that people kind of are already jokingly calling it that because of the Bermuda Triangle, and the weird stuff is happening here. So the people kind of jokingly say, "Haha, this is the Bridgewater Triangle," and he writes that in his article. So I have I don't want to read the whole thing to you, but I'm trying not to speak too out of. I'm paraphrasing entirely there. I'm not saying that's what he said at all. I'm just trying to find this exact quote here. This is talking about the Mary Lou Aruda case, which is a horrifying case. If you haven't seen that, it has nothing to do. They use it. It's, of course, they're using a little girl's murder. That as of course is something. I don't play that game, and I know a lot of people think it's okay to do, but I'm not about that whatsoever. When someone has a chance to use someone's death as proof that there's something happening, something dark happening here. It's just not. It's not. It's just a light reference to him saying that the locals call it this jokingly, and because that's what happened. Loren Coleman instantly became known as the guy that created the Bridgewater Triangle, and all of the people, how it goes, all the little investigators, the people that kind of weren't good at promotion, but they were really good at investigating, or they were a great author, but they never left their house. Yeah, they were like, "Hey, wait a second, we've been calling it that." That's exactly what took place, and there's still a couple of them around. And one of them, she talks about being a child when this all went down, and she sent me the photos right away of the original articles where she's like, he even said it himself. And so years ago, I made sure I kept this for years because I just always forget exactly what it says, because Loren Coleman's like, that's libel. That's libel, you pen, or something like that. And I just thought it was funny. Over the years, residents have recognized this particular area of the state for its strange and often sinister character, and have taken to dubbing it the Bridgewater. Oh, it's the bridge, and then it cuts to the next picture. Water Triangle. That's his article from Loren Coleman by Peter Rodman and Loren Coleman, 1978. At the bottom right-hand side of the first picture, you'll see a map of the Bridgewater Triangle, and it says they've come to dub it the Bridgewater Triangle. And that's why this is why his own words say it. And ever since that occurred, it's a little small town fight. But he has this museum that's small. It's tiny. It's a tiny little museum, tiny. But he's like this larger than life figure. Whenever he showed up on this documentary, because people were always like, "Well, where did this come from? He's the guy." But in fact, he's not really from here. He's never really spent any time here. And all of the stories that make up what became the Bridgewater Triangle are really, honestly, I don't want to sound like such a jerk, but they're kind of nonsense. And they're a lot of them are based around things that have already been debunked because there was an answer that presented itself that was beyond coincidence, like a giant panther cat or an African cat stealing chickens, and people reporting after it, and the head of an African cat shows up on someone's doorstep or something. I can't remember the story. I got to find the paper for it, but the cat wasn't as big as what people claimed, but it was an African cat. And so basically people were like, "No, that can't be it, because the one I saw was the size of a tiger." And it's like, no, you saw a very large cat, but you're either lying or misidentifying it. And the fact that the head of a lynx or something, whatever it was, shows up it should be an obvious sign that there was a cat around here that was completely exotic and non-indigenous, and it was killing animals to survive. How it got its head chopped off and how it ends up whatever, no one knows. But it's like that's the story of this place. People will constantly push this thing. I mean, the story of Thunderbirds. Oh, it's a Native American legend. Shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. Thunderbirds are real. And sure enough, they take videos of it. And what were they? They were buzzards. They were large vultures that weren't really from the area normally for a while. They kind of went away for a while. I don't know. I think it's because the area cooled off for years or something. I don't know, but people weren't seeing buzzards for large vultures very much. And then sure enough, they just started appearing on people's roofs and stuff, and they have like red eyes, and they're hideous, and they're huge. Their wingspan is massive compared to any bird even close to that in the area. And and it's the same story over and over again. And, I don't want to take away from some of the weirdest stuff, even maybe a thing I saw, but I wouldn't doubt that I'd also fall into that other thing, that percentage. But it's just not the Bridgewater Triangle documentary. That's not a real story. Those are Bigfoot's trying to mate with a guy who already has a mental disability, where he goes around saying out loud how he's looking for big women because big women love him. He just says that on repeat. And then he has a Bigfoot story, and they put him in the freaking film. Loren Coleman wrote about him in the 80s. He's walking around the woods with no shirt on, dressed like Rambo, looking for his mate. Literally saying that. And it just sucks because it's not what the natives are reporting, and it's not what we've reported. I mean, though I have seen weird stuff, and I admit it, and I will keep reminding people that it actually happened. But it's not at all like these, we're talking these very, very, blockbuster-like stuff. Harry and the Hendersons, Alf, and that's what's going on. This Alf is in the woods.
So you told me about a DMT experience that you had in our last interview, and you said that you did it more than once. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did it a total of 10 times over the course of about 2 months, I believe.
Okay.
10 times 2 months. Each one the same preparation and whatnot. So I was trying to keep it as the exact same. Yeah, but anyways, yeah, I had a bunch of trips, but yeah, 2 of them were pretty significant.
Okay. 2, but the other ones were more mild or something.
A lot of times it was like nothing. I wouldn't see anything or anything. I would just kind of feel slightly intoxicated. I had my eyes closed, and it was like I could tell that's why you got to watch out for the dangers of dimethyltryptamine, because when you take very small doses of it, you can literally turn your thoughts into like magic. It's like that. Like you close your eyes and lay back, and it's like a dream state where you can like think it, and your thoughts are not as rigid as they once were. It becomes almost like a slight like movie. You think of something and you kind of get flashes of it, rather than everything's all happening to you and you seemingly have no control over anything, which doesn't necessarily mean that's what's happening. I mean, for Christ's sakes, I could see a something in the sky and come to learn much later that everyone who sees that had childhood trauma. I don't know. Like there's clearly stuff that we don't know. But yeah, I had a bunch of experiences that had really mild stuff, but so much so that I don't really remember them as best as I wish I could. So like everything from as basic as hearing someone walk towards me and keys jingling, and then it stopped and someone said loudly, I heard a voice loudly say, this isn't a toy or something like that. I can't remember the exact words, or this isn't supposed to be fun. I can't remember the exact words, but that's it. When I woke up and I was like, all right, I opened my eyes. I was like, okay, well, that's weird. But there was only basically the 2 big ones were the first one and the last one, and that will be the last one. I don't think I'll ever do it again. But
so when you say that. So so are you saying that like you would think about something and then it would become like real in your perception? Like say you would think of a dog and then you would see like a real dog. Is that what you're saying?
Well, with your eyes closed, I'm saying like so I don't know how everyone thinks. I mean, everyone actually manifests a thought differently, right? Like, I mean, I'm like blown away that it took this long in life for people to recognize that like not everyone has like crystal clear images in their head when thinking of something. You know, some people have like flashes, or maybe it's all black up there, but the same thing is occurring, like the same process of a red. If you say a red sports car, and you're thinking of a red sports car, and maybe you see a very visual thing, but you might have to recall something you've seen that's red and visual. Whereas then maybe someone has a big blank space up there, has the ability to kind of simulate a red sports car in their brain, but might not necessarily be getting the most high detail like the one you saw. And all I'm trying to say, and I know that's stupid and very broad, but the thing of it is, it's like being in like a dream state, right? Like that lucid style. I don't know if that's the right word, lucid dreaming, but like right before you start falling asleep, where whatever the last thought you're having kind of sometimes slips into this momentary dream, if you will. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah. No, I just had this experience last night, actually, and it was really weird.
Well, that kind of seems like what it was like to me. But like you could actually kind of control a little of it. So if I thought of a dog, I didn't get to necessarily come up with the exact dog, but if I thought like a black lab or something, maybe a black lab would kind of puff up and kind of float. Like kind of just like float by my eyes closed vision, if that makes any sense, you know, like, and it was like, and I noticed, I was like, oh, wait a second. I was like, people could think they're having a very legitimate, meaningful experience. Maybe it is meaningful to some degree to them, but it was clearly my own thoughts still. Like I noticed it. And that's why other people that were stressing to me just how, you know, like how clear and true and special their DMT trips were, I would constantly say, well, let's be fair. Like even my own weird conversation with that giant weird alien horse thing, I'm like, that could just be, you know, a little bit closer to having that same thing going on, but you're not really controlling it, and your mind's just going. And I don't know. For me, I feel like DMT is psychosis. And it was very controllable in low doses seemingly, and very uncontrollable in high dosage. And I think people do a lot of low dosage DMT and think they're having some meaningful experience because it's their deepest desires and wants. And I traveled and I'm 30 years older than I was for 12 minutes, and now I come back and see, you know, it's all this stuff like that. And what do you know? They're already ingesting videos of people telling their trip stories and reading Terrence McKenna and his brother, and listening to stories of Ram Dass passed around the pipe with these guys, and it's like, you know, to come back and wake up and tell a story, and then they're having something similar happen. Well, no wonder. I mean, that seemed what it was like to me. Your thoughts became a little movie in low dosages.
So when you say that DMT is psychosis, what do you mean?
I can only imagine that anyone who's ever been trapped in their own mind to some degree, where everyone else on the outside looks at this person and goes, this person is entirely crazy, they're making no sense, and they're seemingly a danger to themselves, and the person cannot respond coherently to anything, like, and seems like they're having some sort of, obviously something happened, an episode or something. I mean, I just took a friend I had to take a friend recently to a psych ward, and he's pretty much there for a while. And I just was like looking at the other people in some of these rooms, and I recognized that some people have completely separated from reality. Their psychosis is like they are entirely engaging with people in their own head, sometimes out loud, like mid conversation. They'll be like, "No, apples is what I asked for. Why did you bring me this?" You know, like, and it's just like, I'm like, holy cow. When you do DMT, it felt like that's exactly what was going on, and it felt like to just slip inside your own mind in an uncontrolled fashion and hope that you wash back out when the reset button is hit or whatever, you know, like when a computer overheats, and that's all that happens. You overheat, it resets, it goes back at post, comes back to the start screen, and you're like, holy shit, you know, that's what it feels like. That's what it felt like to me, rather. Sorry.
Okay. Did you have like a breakaway experience where you felt this, like kind of dissolution of your own identity or your own self?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
The final trip, on the final trip I had, I watched it happen. It was insane. I came out believing that purgatory was someone's experience, that they tried to like interpret it. They came out of like a trip or something, and they were like, "This is what happens." Because I think I said this. I'm not sure if I did last time we spoke. But I just shared this story recently with someone. But my last trip, I instantly got. I think maybe I confused my stories when I told you last time, and I was trying to say my last story all at the same time, but I don't really recall. Oh no, that's right. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm reminding myself right now. I had 3 trips that were significant. 2 were like visually significant, insane, and one trip was that very confirming one where the thing told me, remember, that was me that scared you.
Okay.
I confused those 2. That's why I messed up in the original interview we did. But this time, I was thrust into the third person position again. I'm in like the fetal position almost, and I get sent into this invisible contraption, I like to call it, which was, remember those old gyroscope rides from when we were younger at the fair? They were like a nausea, like kind of like an astronaut train, like they slimming you around in all directions. Well, that's what it seemed like I was on, and I was watching myself in this position, and suddenly I started seeing all the times in life that I chose the low road. I chose the easy wrong there, if you will. I had a memory that I completely forgot about being a child when I was riding horses up in New Hampshire. It was on these long trail rides, and this kid was a part of our group that I didn't know, and we got in a fight. I threw an apple, I hit him in the face, and he got mad, and he came after me, and then I won the fight. So insult to injury in front of everyone, like I hit him in the face with an apple and exploded, and then I beat him up essentially in a fight. And then then later that day, he talked shit to me when we walked by, so I filled up a bag of horse shit and put it all over his bed. And it showed me this memory crystal clear. And then in rapid succession, showed me a bunch of incidences like that where I just took it too far, where I didn't call back a loved one. Like literally, it was insane. Like in these flashes, I would have whole experiences with single flashes. Like I remember a girlfriend from when I was way younger. I was a young man, and we broke up by me never talking to her again. And I remember getting voicemails like a couple months later of her crying voice being like, "Why have you?" Like it was just awful. Like I chose like the worst possible way to leave someone who cared about me. And like as a young person, like I'm getting shown these things, and even in the moment, I was recognizing like, oh my God, I know that I didn't mean to do this in this time, but like for some reason, every scenario that I ever did in life, seemingly, I hope it was everything, Jesus Christ, was being shown to me, because I'm talking like little things, like even like as a child choosing to step on a bug. Like when I know that I'm serious, like every little thing seemingly. And, and I just started crying my eyes out loud during the trip saying, I know, I get it. I'm a piece of shit. And whatever was going on reassured me that that's not why I was doing that. And it wasn't like saying that to me, but it was like suddenly came to a recognition like, oh, I'm not a piece of shit. I'm human. Like it was like this instant recognition once this whole laser light show was happening. Because when these visions were being shown to me, at the same time, I was being shot with lights, like a Star Wars gunfight, and these lights were going through me, and it was almost like every time something hit me, a piece of me would like fillet away, like literally, like my skin, everything would like slowly, but not slowly, sorry, like rapidly, like almost like a super fast wind was doing it, and like ripping my skin off as I'm flipping around in this gyroscope like thing, and I'm experiencing all my terrible choices in life. And they're not like, I'm not saying that I'm like some awful person, but seeing yourself being shown that like hurting a loved one was the exact same thing as me getting in a gunfight somewhere and ending someone's life, and then their loved one, even though the guy that I shot was a bad guy, that person never comes home. And here I'm seeing like an Arabic woman screaming her head off in this trip. And it was just gnarly. It was gnarly. Things I've never thought about ever. and or at least seemingly never thought about. And as I finally rip apart to nothing, I get back in I don't know, thrusted into the first person again, and I'm facing a starry night sky. And there in front of me is all the lights that just shot through me, and they're racing up into the sky. And they become a giant Buddha head. Not like the real Buddha, but like the laughing Buddha monk face. And and it started to go like ha 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 ha, like this kind of like large laughing face in the sky that was just all of my things in life that were bad, I guess. Like, that's the most primitive way I can say it. But we're up in the sky now, and in the form of a laughing Buddha monk. And I was very confused, being like, even in the moment, because it wasn't slow. I mean, it wasn't fast, but it wasn't necessarily slow. But I was saying like out loud, like Buddha, I had no idea why they were showing this. I've never been interested in Buddhism at all, and I didn't even know that was like the fake Buddha face until after I researched it. That was like a different guy. But I rocket out of my chair, and this is the craziest part of dimethyltryptamine, because I start rocketing out of this position, and I'm now upright with my hands behind me, sitting on the bed. Like I'm like almost at a 45, probably near a 45-degree angle, sitting up in bed, like, oh my God, and I'm rocketing through the air towards space and towards this Buddha face. Now, every time I see myself going, feel myself going faster, I'm getting sick to my stomach, like it's indistinguishable from being on a jet or something. And my ears are popping and hurting so bad that now I'm gripping the side of my head and yelling out loud, ah! And it's to the point where there's constant explosions, almost like I'm breaking the sound barrier, but it seems way faster than that. And then suddenly I blow right through the Buddha's face while he's laughing. I go right into his mouth and explode him into a million pieces, and or explode him into whatever the number was, and it goes all into the sky and just kind of became other stars. And I continue to rush towards the stars until I get to a large white thing that I can see from far away, and then I get right up to it, and it's seemingly nothing, where everything is gone now. It's such a big thing, and I'm just looking at white, and it's over.
Weird.
That's it. And it was life-changing, because I never, I actually end up thinking about those moments all the time now. And it's life-changing in a bad way, in the sense that I recognize, almost in a way that I can measure it, like I've done the opposite of love. Like on like a measurable scale, I've done the opposite, whatever that is. Whatever that stupid thing I just said, it seemingly there's something in my own mind or whatever happened to me that understands that I contributed this much, pain to the world, and I had to get rid of it before wherever I was going. That's my interpretation. No one ever said that to me. I never heard anything. No voice or no DMT elf or whatever they call it. Didn't say that. It felt to me like there's a reason why all of those things were shown to me right before I rocketed off into this weird, cool place that I thought I was about to go somewhere. Like, that's what it felt like. I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to go somewhere. And guess what? I did go somewhere. I went back to reality. People oftentimes say that white place is heaven and yada yada yada, or it's like this the place. And to me, all I think was executive functioning kicked back on normal again, and I saw all those things to remind me, because my brain is working regardless of my body to say, hey, now that I've got you here, this is some of the shit that you've been putting out there. Maybe you want to clean up your act a little bit. And that's what it felt like to me. It was completely autonomous. It was no alien. It was like my brain was like letting me know, we're going to clear some of these files. But instead of them being cleared, I kind of think about them quite often, I guess, as a reference. It's like, hey man, like when you can love someone and make them feel loved and happy in just like the slightest way sometimes when they need it, just take a moment and do it. It isn't going to kill you. You know, it isn't. It's just like I have spent most of my life in, like completely. You know, just like compassion doesn't roll around in my mouth very well. You know, for like people I know, people I don't know, I seem to really care about from afar. You know, like, but I feel like what, you know, when I've had opportunities to express to people that care about me, you know, that I care about them too, and I've chosen not to, and you know, it's obviously being counted, at least by my subconscious.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like these experiences made you a better person.
I don't think so. Maybe, but I already think I was like a pretty good person. I just think that you know, there's moments where sometimes you can, like, no, like let's be fair. I don't know if like God is love, and love is like this thing that recognizes when you're not using it or something, whatever. Like, I don't owe anything to anyone. In these moments, I was also to some degree suffering. I didn't do the right thing. That's for sure. That's for damn sure. I should have chose a different path that made it better for everyone, and people wouldn't have their feelings hurt. But at the same time, I'm like, well, Jesus Christ, like, we're animals here. This is crazy. I don't want to be like no different from a wild animal, but I spend too much of my time feeling bad for people. I'm one of these sickos that, like, literally, if I have a thought of someone in pain, I actually feel like I'm like, oh, I feel terrible. I don't want to think about that. Like, it literally, I see someone crying and I'm like, oh my God, I literally feel their pain and I don't want. I'm like Powder. Remember Powder?
I haven't seen it. Sorry.
No, I don't know. I'm not. People said I'm an empath, but I don't know what the hell it is. I think it's like broken. My system isn't regulated like it should be.
I don't know. It sounds like you're a really good person. That's what it sounds like to me. Like, you have a conscience, but you're like emotionally sensitive to it.
I'm a little. I can't stand it. I hate it. It drives me crazy. I'm sorry to use that language, but it's ridiculous. I literally will. I feel bad for people even when I'm like going after them. Like when I know someone's a liar, like, and they've literally lied and taken the trust out of the like you know, just completely use people. And while it's happening, I like see other stuff that they've done, and it's part, you know, whatever's out there, and I'm just like, oh no, like I don't want. Oh my God, this guy. You know, I saw a picture of him with his kids or something, for Christ's sakes, and I'm like, oh, jeez, I don't want to be like the guy that, you know. So one day his kid's gonna see me, hey, asshole, we caught you red-handed, you know. You know, it's just like I literally come up with fake scenarios that will probably never happen, and I'm overcome with them one after another like a deck of cards, and I'm just like, okay, I'll delete this post.
Well, I mean,
that's not right.
No, I think that is, I don't know, I think that's a good thing. I don't know. I'm sorry. I think that's a really good thing. I don't think that, you know, I mean, I think I have compassion for people that do bad things, and I think that that's something that more people should have, personally. That's my own take on that.
Yeah, I definitely, I don't know where that boundary lies, because people have been so convinced that that love is only for, like, what's that? Recently someone said, like, there's, you know, I'm so outside of trying to help myself with all my own problems right now, that someone's like, you know, there's a lot of people that are kind, but are not nice, but not kind, you know, and that's a very basic statement. Obviously, it probably goes back pretty far, but when I think about it, it's like a lot of people will straight up interact with me and almost come to the conclusion instantly that I'm like an asshole. But I really do feel like some of the most counterintuitive decisions I've seen people make are for the best, or showing that they actually care. And I kind of just try to stick that. My mother was like one of those people that, like, if I like laughed at someone who got like the wrong or the wrong answer on, like, Wheel of Fortune as I'm walking by the living room or something, and I laughed, and she'd be like, don't you dare wish that on other people. Like, you know, and I can totally like see why I'm probably like this to some degree, like wish like just ever like just like causing harm to anyone. I'm a golden rule type of fella. Other than that, leave me the
So going back to the horsehead guy, what do you think? Do you think? Like, it sounds to me like you're pretty skeptical of these the DMT and more kind of metaphysical experiences. So, what do you think this horsehead guy like is? I mean, like, what kind of reality does the horsehead guy have?
Well, I don't, and I can't try to make sense of it being in our physical world that other people witnessed in banging on the door. But I have heard people say things like, if you've ever, I've talked to like people in psychology that are like, I explained my dimethyltryptamine experience and about how it felt very self-confirming to some degree, and even some stuff that happens in meditation does. But when I had some of those experiences where I'm seeing the woes I've brought to this plane, I recognize that when I came out of it, or when I went to that place, it was back here. This was the place, Earth. That's why I woke up out of that white thing, and because of that, I would almost assume, and this is working in reverse order, which is completely illogical, saying that something happened to my DMT trip or a metaphysical belief involved with a dimethyltryptamine trip explains something that happened in real life. But maybe, just maybe, if this thing is possible, which I'm open to it, that I was able to, like, I don't know, in fear, because there were noises, there was someone running on the roof, there was banging, it was crazy loud, and it was happening in a time where I guess, all of us just thought that we were about to be attacked or something, that maybe I projected something, like out of my own. I'm a psychic. No, it's possible, I guess, that we could find something out in the future that there's more than one thing going on up there, because I've always said even as a child, that, hey, I mean, the voice in your head, everyone says is your conscious, but I mean, doesn't it feel like that thing talks way faster than sometimes some of the other systems are? I mean, I used to be like a daredevil. You know how many times I've heard the voice in my head say, you are going, you know, like, and like, you know, that's just, oh yeah, that's just your conscious talking. But are we settled on what this all is? Like this autonomous voice just going off in your head?
So you're talking about a literal voice in your head, though, right? Not just like a figurative voice, but actually like something that you experience.
Like, what is the next? Well, that's I don't want to go too far off the question you asked me, but like, what is to just like the same thing we said about thinking of a red car and how some people have made it clear they don't see a red car at all when they think of it. They see nothing, but they can somehow they're visualizing a red car. There's no visual though. It's like all there at once. It's a quantum field rather than a single photo or video. And
right.
And
yeah, no, I just mean like you know, like for me, I don't have a very vivid imagination most of the time. I do sometimes, and I had more of a vivid imagination when I was younger. But I will get like these auditory hallucinations where I'll hear like a whooshing sound, or I'll hear someone's voice or something in my ear, like right when I'm falling asleep or right when I'm waking up. And so, yeah, and but also, yeah, okay, yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. And so, or like, I think sometimes I'll hear that, but it won't be like, it'll be inside of my head, you know, but it'll be just as real as though it was outside of my head.
Right.
But then if I'm thinking thoughts, you know, that's more like a simulation, I think. It's not like I'm experiencing something. It's just kind of like information or something.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so like when you're talking about hearing your conscience talking, are you speaking figuratively or are you speaking literally?
I mean, the obvious answer in my mind is figuratively, but I mean, at the same time, I get what, like, this is why I had such a problem in like philosophy, and I would like challenge everything like a fucking contrarian, because I literally like think about it. I'm like, well, that's weird though, because there are moments where that are more than just anecdotal, where I'm sitting on the top of a 12-foot half pipe on a bike, and I hear, you know, I'm involved with conversations whilst also hearing a voice being like, you are completely unprepared for going out. You're going to, you know, I think that sometimes things go from being a very figurative, like almost, of course you're going to be scared. You're looking down over a big cliff. I'm sorry, you're looking down over a cliff essentially, and you're going to hurt yourself. That's obvious, and everyone should feel that. But isn't it clear that some people would just fling themselves off? I mean, we have professional prize fighters who go in the ring and get punched in the face for money. I mean, there are people out there that literally have far less of a voice in their head saying, don't do that, you're going to get hurt. I don't know where that line is drawn, because the voice can become obviously not a literal out loud voice, but it can become quite loud enough that it can take over a thought. People will not bail out of an airplane in airborne school. People will not jump jumping tandem, and they don't know why. They're not hearing anyone say it, but they refuse. I don't want to go crazy, but I feel like we get lost in what's been labeled things so far. I have this sneaking suspicion that whatever happened to me and whatever happened to us then, you know, I lay a couple things, but I do have a feeling that sometimes maybe. I'm not even gonna say it. Because it's too ridiculous. But like native legends and stuff. Like even right here, like even like I don't want to take away from the Wampanoag, but like there's things about like Chepe or whatever. I can't remember the exact way. I think it's Chepe, I believe, is the name of one of their like a deity that lives in like the swamps here. They constantly said stories about like their imagination. Obviously, you've heard this in the paranormal, presents like something in front of them. It's now like a brave that's dead, or someone that's gone, like a family member there to like attack them, or some sort of monster or whatever. But it's in their imagination, and like it's very reflective, or it's like a mirror type of thing. And that's, there are other incidents that happen in my life that let me know that things like that can happen. And like I've come out of my body before with 105-degree temperature. I was there. and it happened in a way that I could watch it slowly at first, and I recognized that if that happened then as a child, maybe, just maybe, I don't know if this is exact. It sounds absurd when I'm going to say it, but what if I came out of my body again to bang on the wall to warn myself? I should have said that out loud.
No, it's interesting. It's not crazy. It's not stupid.
It's not crazy.
I'm totally on board. I'm totally on board with you. I'm totally on board.
Okay.
You're doing good.
It's definitely crazy, and it's definitely nonsense. It's irrational as hell. So I'm all over the place here, but listen to this. When I was a child, I'm laying on a couch during Christmas. I have a 105-degree temperature. We didn't have a thermometer in the house. I get rushed to the hospital. I have a 105-degree temperature. They're like, hey, your kid could be dead if you didn't come. It was a pretty serious affair. I just had the flu, like significant flu, and so I was laying on my couch waiting for my mother to get dressed to go to the hospital. And as I'm on my couch, I'm laying there with my eyes closed. Now, suddenly, I could see. I open my eyes, and I could, I'm just looking at the ceiling. Everything's fine. And suddenly, out of nowhere, I'm like, in my moaning, complaining state, I see creases, like a little bit of a ridge to a forehead, because I'm looking upwards. I'm laying downward, but I'm like, my eyes are kind of like looking, like almost like not straight up, but almost a little bit past that. And so I'm really like scrunching my forehead to look up, and I'm seeing a scrunched forehead, but I don't recognize that as my own. I'm just like, what the fuck am I looking at? Like, it's an instantaneous thing where I'm seeing this image of a forehead, and it slowly starts to pull back, and it's not just the forehead, it's my nose, and my eyes, and my mouth, and all of a sudden, I'm thinking I'm looking at a mirror. It ain't a mirror. I'm looking down at myself, and I'm wigging out, screaming, arms flapping like a scene in a movie or something. And I'm screaming in real life. I can see myself moving in real life, screaming, I'm dying, I'm out of my body, I'm dying. And I'm watching this all happen, and my mother runs down. She's shaking me, screaming and crying, you're not dying, cut it out, we're going. And she puts her coat on, and she gets me up, and I hit the ceiling. That's what it felt like to me. I literally felt like I hit the ceiling because I hit something behind me, and I wasn't going anywhere anymore. I was just looking at myself. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, I'm right back in my body. There was no drifting back. I don't really recall. I don't think, but I was just right back there. And I asked the doctor about it, and they just kind of like brushed it off. But over the years, I've recognized, of course, that high fever temperatures can do all types of things with interrupting a couple frequencies that are happening in the frontal lobe of the brain, frontal area of the brain. And when that occurs, everything from sensing a person near you, can take place. And whatever that happened, whatever that was, I'm not saying I physically was out of my body, but I'll tell you right now, it felt indistinguishable from real life, and I could see myself fully. I wasn't like some strange way I was seeing things and I had to rub my eyes. I mean, I could see myself, and I could hear myself and see myself screaming. And after that, I never thought that had anything to do with that horse-headed mutant freak thing ever in my life until some metaphysical person, from the paranormal heard my story and contacted me, and I started hanging out with Grant Cameron. And and I'm not, I don't really agree with half the things Grant Cameron says, but I did appreciate some of his work, and I think the guy's a nice guy. But he started saying, oh yeah, we've heard that a million times. That's all, people certain heightened scenarios, or that same thing about he just said this, and I took what he said and started researching what he was quoting. And there's a lot of things out there, if that same thing occurs in the wild, that interrupting of the frequency in the frontal lobe, and things like that presenting themselves, could it happen to me and all my friends all at the same time? And could I just happen to be the one that maybe did it? I don't know if it was me, but I just know that it happened. It happened in front of all of us. It was loud. It was fast. It was white. It was real. I don't know. And that's why I get really confused when I try to mix the two or try to connect the two. There is no real connection other than the DMT trip, which came afterwards.
Yeah. No, yeah, going back to the, I just meant, when we're talking about, the voices in the head, I just meant, not in terms of, their reality or where they're coming from or anything, but just how we experience them. Like, do you hear voices in your head that sound or that feel like they are real experiences as opposed to, you know, something that you imagine or something that you think?
No, I don't have any real trouble with that other than when I'm mad at the dog, but I love my dog, so,
and I don't mean that, I don't think that there's lots of people that hear voices all the time and they don't see it as being, like, it doesn't interfere with their life in any way and they're not pathological or anything like that.
Well,
Sorry,
yeah.
Hold on a second.
I consider, you know.
Yeah.
I consider the idea that we're all so different, and I talk about it all the time because I'm like I over observe like an idiot. I just like take too much in, but it's like I see a lot of people that I feel like maybe had a lot of arrested development that are like in their adulthood, and how you can't tell that they had some significant thing happen in their youth that maybe really prevented them from maybe being the most mature, but they now have the armored suit of an adult, and I think of that a lot with the voice, the inner monologue. You know, like I think of like how some people don't have that at all, and I want to be clear when I say like I'm not talking about any other voice or any other thing other than my own inner monologue that allows me to essentially, you know. Oh, way too fast. I admit that. Obviously, you can hear the way I talk, but it allows me to analyze life and my own thoughts as fast as possible in order to achieve something, and you know, whatever. And so I don't know if that means, if you know what I mean by that, rather than any other type of voice or variable or anything. It doesn't take influence over my own inner monologue, or there's something like that. If that's kind of like what.
Yeah.
I'm an idiot.
Just
remember, you're talking to someone who also basically stopped growing in the mind at like 5. So
you are way too hard on yourself. That's my opinion. I think you say a lot of negative things about yourself. But
well, look who's talking about myself here. I'm an idiot. I have too many anecdotes to reference. I once was shown them all on the empty strip. No, I do. I mean, I like comedy, and so I have this terrible. I was already self-deprecating because I was a child, you know. You know, obvious symptoms of unbalanced, you know, whatever gut. I can go back to my earliest memories of being critical of myself. But anyways.
That's all for this evening. Please be sure to check out Jeff Kingsbury's show, Strange Recon, on YouTube or Spotify. We're grateful for working with him. We're also grateful to our listeners and supporters. Thank you so much for listening to UFO Sunset. Good night. Anyway, all right, I'll let, you know,
You won't stop talking, so I've got to get out.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, I'm not. Wait. Why am I apologizing?
Please stop. I gotta get off the phone.
All right. I'll talk to you later, Jeff.
I can't believe you've done this. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I really do. Thank you for caring enough to want to hear my story, Sarah. That's pretty cool.
Me too. I really appreciate you.
All right.
You take care.
Let's talk soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.
For sure. Bye.